Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi there, how are we?
Good show.
We're good.
Hello, everybody. We are, we're already starting to pour in.
Just food on the go.
Food on the tables. Great to see you all. Yeah, Friday night.
I don't know if they're having a lead with the sound.
I have to turn it up.
Oh, look.
Hi guys, all good?
Oh,
Jason,
good.
how are you?
Yeah, greetings.
Hi, good
from
evening.
Ireland. Yeah, we've eaten well.
Great. Lovely to see you all. We're all filling in. I mean,
No, a lot of those kids might know each other. We did this in lockdown with me and Chris, and all of us did it.
Yeah.
And so we were all together.
It's a great idea.
And it just meant something to do. And
lovely to see you all streaming in there. We're at about, what, 56, 60 people. So we'll give it another couple of minutes.
60 people.
I like the way he has all the corks in the big glass there. That's cool.
You have to guess how many's in it by the end of the night. So
I'll start counting now. I've started already.
Funny colour, this wine.
looks like Guinness in that glass to me.
Bit cloudy.
I just cleansed my palate.
Well, it's lovely to see you all. I have you'll notice if any of you have been on to the last couple of these that we've done. When the numbers creep up, we're more obliged, I think, for everybody's sake to have you muted as you come in. So tonight we have done that. We have you muted as you come in, so that it isn't a wall of noise for everyone who's just joining for the first couple of minutes. So yeah, we've done that, but absolutely please unmute and as you will, and as you want to dive in and as you want to join the conversation through the night, because that's exactly what this is. It's a total conversation. It's a fun evening, and yeah, it's a bit of crack. Look, I think enough of you have been on with us before, and we're all about this engagement and fun and interaction. So anyway, let's have loads of that tonight. We've a packed schedule. Like you're all really welcome. Where are we at? Firstly, we're hovering. We might have a couple more joining shortly, but and hopefully we will. But firstly, I'm Will, and this is Michael. If any of you don't know us, or it's the first time joining one of these tastings, we've been lucky enough to do plenty of winemaker tastings and have had some really good winemakers over the last year. But we're really, really looking forward to tonight's one because it's a slightly different one. It's a twist. We've done lots of tastings, just the two of us, with individuals and groups and private groups. And tonight we're blessed enough to kind of mix the winemaker format with some of that, where we've 6 really, really diverse styles.
Gorgeous wines. We have Spain, to most people, is red wine and it's oaked red wine, whereas tonight we've got 2 gorgeous white wines, one oaked, one unoaked. We've got 2 unoaked red wines, which is quite unusual and really modern, and it'll blow you away. And then we're going to finish with 2 of the Riojas we all know and love.
Traditional style,
yeah.
French oak. Yeah, like it's and we just, I'm sure you all have. Look, what's deadly is that you're all tasting already. You've all got wine in your glasses. Plenty of food on the go, as it absolutely should be. But we just tasted a few minutes ago. We were really impressed at how we've got the unoaked reds, we've got the traditional style with the unoaked white, the oaked white. We're going to go to a few different places, and we're absolutely blessed to also have a couple of different guests with us. Sylvia, I see you right there in front of our screen.
In your gorgeous green from Waterford.
Hi.
Irish colours, and you're really welcome.
Yes, with Iris dress, yeah.
Well,
Hi, good evening, everybody.
You're really welcome, and it's lovely. It's lovely to have you, Sylvia.
Thank you.
We're, as you know, it's going to be a few minutes just before we get to your wine, and we're really excited about it because, well, again, we also tasted that a few minutes ago, and it's great. So we're looking forward to coming to you in a little while. We also have Fergal Tynan, as you know, on. Any of you who did a tasting with us and Fergal, probably maybe a year ago in lockdown.
Thereabouts.
We did Fergal is one of these guys that makes you feel like if you feel like you're busy in your life, you're not, because he is a CEO of a big wine company. He makes wine in Australia. He's a wine company there. He has a wine company in the south of France, Terres Fideles. He has a wine company in Rioja, and it is the Alto Rioja Mas, if I've pronounced that right, Fergal, if you're in just yet. He is constantly flying. He's constantly on the go. He's one of these flying winemakers.
His name should be Fergal's Tynan. There should be more than one Fergal.
Multiples of them. He was really excited the other day when he had just hired a full-time winemaker and a full-time production manager just to take over the job in the south of France that he'd been doing since 2016, as well as making wine in Australia and in Rioja as well. So we're really looking forward to hearing from him. He is a breath of fresh air as well, and he'll come in a little bit later on when we kind of move towards the reds. And then we're also really lucky to have Ryan Scott with us as well. And Ryan, you're really welcome. We'll come to you in just a minute as well. But Ryan is one of the 3 founders of Drop Chef, which you are all hopefully enjoying tonight. And it's lovely seeing. And another one of the reasons actually we had to have you all on mute as you came in is because we knew that the clinking glasses, the lashing of paella pans would all be kind of would all be too much noise for some of us. So anyway, it's great to have you, Ryan. You're really welcome as well. Just before I come back to you, Ryan, because I know you're going to give us a couple of words on Drop Chef and all the things that you guys are doing and the excitement that's going on for you guys right now. But just before I do, 1 or 2 other things. You want to make sure, sorry, Izadi is the first wine. So sorry, that was it. I have my notes here.
Okay.
I'm making sure I cover everything just before we come to you, Ryan. But Izadi is the first wine of the night. So this is really casual. It's informal. The wines we like to think are the vehicle for the next hour and a half. So it's an hour and a half of enjoyment. And if you want to jump ahead and drink reds while we start on whites, we're going to go from the order that I mentioned before. Start with Izadi, move into Conde de Valdemar, and we'll work our way through the reds gradually. But anyway, get a little bit of Izadi white Rioja in your glass. We'll come to that in a couple of minutes' time. We'll tell you a little bit about that in a couple of minutes' time. But first, I'm just going to ask, Ryan is going to say a few words from Drop Chef. You all have their boxes, so it's a warm introduction. I think you all know what they are capable of. They're a really, really innovative company. They're only 6 in their 7th year of business. They were founded in 2015. Three young guys, 3 friends, really passionate about healthy food, no waste of food. So they are delivering boxes like you've received with these meal kits that are meals for 1, 2, 3, 4, however many people. Ryan, you'll be better placed to tell everyone than I. So
yeah. Brilliant. Well, firstly, thank you, Will and Michael, and everyone for having me. It's a pleasure to be able to help you guys all out this evening. Hopefully, make dinner a little bit more interesting, healthier, and easy. Yeah, as Will said, I started this business along with my friends about 7 years ago, so quite a while, and we bootstrapped the business and really grew it through from, I guess, our customer base of word of mouth over the years. We now deliver to the whole of Ireland, and I guess business has been just growing at a faster rate each year. And really, the reason why everyone does it is for 3 reasons. And the first one, I guess, is to save everyone time. And in that instance, it's my job to save you guys all time. So I'm going to keep it really, really short and very briefly explain to you what we do. The other 2 things that we do on top of saving people time is we also help them to live a more healthy life as well. So all of our recipes are designed by a dietitian. And this means that you guys don't need to think about or count everything that goes into it. We've already done that, or we've tried to optimize or make what would usually be an unhealthy dinner. We've made it a little bit healthier by adding a few things in or taking some things out. And then the third thing that we do is we help you to live a more sustainable life. So we do that by eliminating your food waste. As many of you may be aware, the food industry actually has one of the largest effects, or is one of the largest producers of greenhouse gas emissions, and affects the planetary boundaries as well in many other ways, through biodiversity loss, use of fresh water resources, overuse of phosphorus, and so forth, and nitrogen and interfering with the phosphorus and nitrogen cycles. So our business, we try and reduce food waste, make sure that we're using responsible packaging where we can, and also source more sustainable ingredients as well. So we're on this mission at the moment. We've been very fortunate to work in the past with Will and Michael as well, because where we deliver a box to our customers once a week, and it has all the ingredients in it, like you guys have seen. We also used to accompany that with a glass of wine as well that we did. And Will and Michael were incredible at pairing wines to the dinners that we had. So it's a really, really cool experience. Would love to have you guys cooking with us if you feel like it might be useful to you in the future. If you have any questions or would ever like to get in touch with me or the rest of my team, you can just email hello@dropchef.com and we'll get right back to you. On top of that, just a few other little bits of information. Our menu changes every week. And this means that you don't get sick of eating the same food over and over again. And it also means that you've got a more varied diet, which is quite cool. And usually it's a little bit easier to cook than what you guys are seeing, because we just deliver one dish, or sorry, you're only cooking one dish per in an evening. I know this evening it might be a little bit hectic because you've got multiple recipe cards and you're trying to pull it all together. But usually we stick to one recipe card per night and one simple dinner that you should be able to pull together in about 20 to 30 minutes. But I really, really hope that you all enjoy the rest of your evening. I Will and Michael put so much effort into organizing this all. And I'd just like to say, yeah, thanks a lot to them for helping to support my business as well, because yeah, we really, really appreciate it as well. So yeah, thanks again, Will.
Really well said, Ryan. Thanks. You're really welcome. Keep up what you're doing. It's a really exciting, innovative, it's a daily business. It's actually a daily business, Ryan. I had Christmas dinner from Drop Chef this year for the first time, not because I wanted to, but because my sister was too lazy to make it herself. I will have you know, I go out and do the shopping herself, Ryan. But it was a great recommendation. We loved it. So all really high quality, organic, deadly stuff. So keep it up. Anyway, we'll chat soon. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Right, see you soon. So we're gonna kick straight in. We're going to start on. You all hopefully have Izadi Rioja in your glass. I hope, by the way, at this point as well. Now there was lots of conversation during the week of are we having paella at the start? Are we waiting till 9 o'clock? Are we going to cook paella at the end? Are we having patatas bravas with our cheese? Are we?
If you're finished now, it's okay. If you're halfway through, it's okay. If you haven't done anything, it's okay. It's your weekend.
I should put my name up there.
You should enjoy it. We won't tell you what to do. We're just here to have those. Someone
is that. Mary McDonald who's joined the patatas bravas now. She's probably getting to paella in a little while, and then there's cheese and so Anne and Eddie, you might mute yourselves there as well. I think you might be up there loud. You're certainly up right in front of the screen. And we'll see you in a little while as well, because we'll come to Mullin to see how you guys are getting on. So anyway, let's start. Whites, the first white Rioja.
So first of all, we're all here to celebrate Rioja, a place that we all love in Ireland. Will was just going through some figures with me earlier on, and it works out that the Irish, as a market, we are the 6th biggest consumers of Rioja in the whole world. Considering is there 6 million of us?
Yeah.
We drank
7th a year ago.
Yeah.
But we had a really impressive year. We
drank
a hard year in.
A lot, yeah. We drink 3.5 million bottles of Rioja every year, which is incredible. We think it's amazing wine. We love the area. We have an affinity with it. And maybe if you want to put up of where Rioja is,
Michael, I'm just going to stop there because I'm just also going to actually just mute everyone just while you're talking, so that we can.
Rioja is a place in the northeast part of Spain. We don't go to it enough. We're always in the south of Spain, down the Costa del Sol, and when you go up to this northeast part, it's near the Basque country. It's about an hour from Bilbao. It's stunning country. The people are awesome, and the wine. The reason to go, the place to see the place is lovely. It's just an incredible valley. The Cantabrian mountains frame Rioja from the north. And then we've got the River Ebro in the south, and in between then is this place here. So we've got Three areas. So Rioja Alta, Rioja Alavesa, and Rioja Oriental. And they make different styles of wine, but they make predominantly two grape varieties. One, the white, is called Viura, and it's renowned for being able to age fantastically over the years. And the red is Tempranillo. And again, another wine that it can age. And that's what we love in Ireland. We love the fact that we can buy these gorgeous wines that have aged already, like they drink straight from the bottle. And I think that's why we love Rioja. The first wine we were going to try it's from a winery called Izadi, and it's relatively new. It's 1987, I think it was formed. And they're in the part of Rioja where you see on your screen, there's a pink part there, and that's Rioja Alavesa.
And it's top left, isn't it? Even it's really almost to the most westerly part of Alavesa.
Yeah, and it's perfect for making white wine because these mountains, they stop the breezes coming in from the Atlantic Ocean and stop the rain. I think there's 500 millimeters of rain every year in Rioja Alavesa, whereas Ireland has 1,500 to 2,000. I've been in every shower.
We knew that.
Yeah, we do be sorry more.
But I heard a quote the other day about how the river Ebro streams its way through Rioja, and that's why I pulled this photograph up here on the left of your screen now, the bottom left, because the quote I heard was how the vineyards spawn themselves off the banks of the river all the way through Rioja, and it's 100 kilometers long here. So you just have this landscape that is just beautiful, and particularly the autumn pictures when you see any of the autumn pictures, because you have all of the different colors of the leaves and the trees plus the leaves on the vines, and it's spectacular. So that's one of them here, framed obviously by the Sierra Cantabria mountains as well. We may see autumn in Rioja at some stage. You never know. We'll come back to that later. So Izadi, for a start, it's a very, very modern style Rioja, white Rioja. It's 6 varieties, grape varieties, but the predominant grape variety is Viura, and it's renowned for its acidity. It's lovely and fresh and zesty. It doesn't have to be old. It's not something that you should drink with any age. And when you nose it, when you put your nose into it, it's got the tiniest little bit of oak, but only the tiniest. It doesn't rely on oak. The second wine we're going to try really hangs on the oak aging that it has. But Sylvia, so freshness here, like it's
freshness and zestiness and verve. I think that's the word I'm looking for. When I tried this, I swished it around. I'm a very ugly wine drinker. I swish it around and like mouthwash, and it really tells you all about this wine. It gives you a little bit of spice. It gives you dryness. There's no sweetness, and it's absolutely stunning. These guys, the vines are they were basically, the vines are from 1960, so they're really old vines. They're bush vines, so they're old style Rioja, but the wine itself is very, very new in its approach, and it's something that we don't drink enough of. We drink a lot of Sauvignon Blanc. We drink a lot of
even Albarino. We drink. We've probably come full circle in many ways from Sauvignon Blanc, and now Albarino is considered to be the standard, isn't it, on many wine lists? But we don't know enough of Viura, which is the big grape here, also known as Macabeo, or Macabeu, I think, over in Catalan or in Barcelona direction. But it's not, it doesn't get enough. I mean, in the UK, they drink 10 times as much white Rioja as we do here.
Oh, really?
It's really big. It's really big in the UK. And in fact, we got Wines of Rioja sent us some numbers earlier. I'll drag them out in a second. But in the last, in Ireland last year alone, white Rioja grew quite substantially. I can't remember, it was 10 or 15%. But so it's catching on. It's picking up, because I think traditionally we all saw Rioja as reds, and now we're all, I think, really hungry to try. Like, we've had a flavor and a taste of the Mediterranean and of Albarinos in Galicia and of other white grapes, and now we're kind of going, where are we going? We've done Pinot Grigio.
Now we're actually trying all different things, which is fantastic. It's not a wine that you would expect to come from Spain. You would expect it to come from somewhere cooler and much a different style of wine than you're getting. You'll see on the screen there, that's in the background, you see the Cantabria Mountains, and they're proper mountains, huge. And beside it is the Izadi winery. And you can see the oak barrels there, which very little is used in this one.
So am I right in saying we're at the highest point now, Alavesa being the highest? Are we?
Alavesa, between Alavesa
Fergal and Sylvia will correct us anyway
Of
in a few
course they
minutes'
will, yeah.
time.
Oh, yeah.
But-
So hopefully everybody likes this wine. It will go perfectly with the food. It's got that lovely little spice to it, but lovely and fresh, as Will said, and it's got great length.
So quickly, we don't want to get too bogged down in details Friday night about the stories behind it, but I always just kind of love dipping into the people behind the wine. So this is Gonzalo on the left and Lalo, his son. This story started for Izadi. Bodegas Izadi started in 1987. The Gonzalo on the left and a group of friends, they were really into their food, and they decided to start and make their own winery. A couple of years later, he opened a Michelin star restaurant in the local town. So it was all about trying to produce a wine that was just really approachable in style, but also not just wine that would be like all of the other classified wines from the area. So they decided to focus. Instead of making all of the different age statement classifications of Rioja, from Crianza to Gran Reserva and Reserva, they focused in on Reserva wine, and that was what he wanted to make. But he also wanted to make his whites, and so this Viora blend is supposed to. It's just as Michael said, it's all about freshness. It's just all about. It's not about what's done to the wine. It's all actually done in the vineyard here with the grapes and where they are. So anyway, they still have that Michelin star restaurant, and one day maybe we'll organize a trip and we'll all get there. It will be lovely. But it's a lovely story. Lalo still runs the winery today. It's a really popular wine in Ireland, and it's on quite a good few of the top restaurant wine lists from a red point of view. But the white is picking up. We've really showcased the white in. We did a big Rioja case last Christmas, and during the last year, and we really try and showcase this, because just before we came on, we tasted it. And and one thing I'll remember it, of course, through the evening, it's a €20 bottle of wine. So if you bought this on its own in shops, it's €20. But we just talked about the value on it just before we came on. And you made the comment, this is every bit as good as a great Chablis.
It really is.
It's clean, it's crisp.
It's got all the qualities of a Chablis. Yeah. The wine is actually a product of the ground that it's in. And these vines being really old, their root system goes down further down into the ground, like 5 meters, to look for all of these great minerals and great sort of things that come from the ground, and really gives a personality. And if you paid for this from a more salubrious area, which like Chablis, for instance, you'll be paying a lot more money for the style and for the quality. Not to knock Chablis, I love Chablis.
No, I know.
But style-wise, it's always nice to have it go-to.
So anyway, we hope you really enjoyed that one. It is absolutely time for us to bring Sylvia in. So Sylvia, we must say, Sylvia Sainz is the export manager for Bodegas Valdemar in Rioja. And certainly when we talk about red Rioja in Ireland, her Gran Reserva and Conde de Valdemar's Gran Reserva is arguably the best-selling, certainly best-selling Gran Reserva Rioja in Ireland, there's no question. And so, like the whites, it's a really rare white wine. This they don't make an awful lot of it. And so I'm just going to mute again if you don't mind. Then Sylvia, you might just need to unmute yourself in a moment. But yeah, Sylvia, you're really welcome. Join us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good evening, everybody. Yeah, I'm very glad to be part of this plan tonight. I want to thank Will and Michael for giving me this opportunity. So first, I'm gonna tell something very quick about the winery, and then you'll play a video. And then I explain about what makes our Finca Alto Cantabria so special. And then if I have to say, like, the most important things about Bodegas Valdemar is that this is a family winery from Rioja, and it was established in 1889, so that is 130 years ago. It's already the 4th and the 5th generation managing the winery. Then the second most important thing is that we have like about 300 hectares of our own. So we control the quality since the beginning of the production of the cycle of the life. And the third thing is that we combine quality and innovation, and you will see along the tasting some examples of this innovation. So now, yeah, Will, you can play the video, and so everybody can meet the family, the facilities of the winery, and the most important, that's the vineyards. Thank you.
Thanks, Sylvia.
The origin of every great wine is always the best grapes. That's why at Bodegas Valdemar, the most important factor is the care of our vineyards, and why our philosophy is to work only with them. That way, we can take the right care during the whole year, and they can give us the best fruit. Nothing is left to chance, and when the moment arrives, grapes are harvested manually in small boxes for them to arrive to the winery in the best conditions. Once at home, a rigorous classification at the selection table allows us to further select the best grapes for the wines that will give name to our brands, Conde de Valdemar and Inspiración Valdemar. That has always been and still is the tradition of this family business, founded in 1889 and ran nowadays by the family's 5th generation. Jesus Martinez Ujanda and his father launched the Conde de Valdemar brand in the 80s, and this winery soon became the benchmark for the new style of Rioja wines. Its facilities also started a new era by having the first stainless steel computer-controlled fermentation tanks in Europe. Today, Jesus and his sons, Jesus and Ana, continue this legacy following the philosophy of providing the highest quality in each of their wines. Exhaustive selections, the most rigorous controls, and above all, excellence in every single step in the creation of each wine. Thanks to that, Bodegas Valdemar is currently present in over 55 countries and is world-renowned for its wine's quality, especially in the case of our Reservas and Grand Reservas wines, known for their elegance and longevity. Authentic gems that show the greatness of the wines from this winery and our region. Grand Reservas, dating back to 1968 vintage, coexist with the more surprising and innovative style of our Inspiración Valdemar range, the result of combining the newest winemaking techniques and our rarest indigenous varieties. Wines such as the extremely rare Inspiración Valdemar, Tempranillo Blanco, and Inspiración Valdemar Maturana, or the internationally acclaimed Inspiración Valdemar Selección that delight wine lovers. All the above, always done with the aim to bring to your table the best wine to be enjoyed in every occasion and moment. Let's toast for it. Cheers!
Okay, thank you, Will.
Thanks.
And now I'm focusing on the wine. It's Finca Alto Cantabria. That's the name of our wine. And I'm going to explain, okay, the name Finca in Spanish means estate. And that's state Alto Cantabria is the place where this wine comes from, and it's what makes the wine very special. And why is this place so special? This okay, I invite you to start drinking the wine now. I am enjoying when I talk. Yeah. So this estate has belonged to the family since the very beginning. That's since 1889, 130 years, and it has given always the most special wines in the winery. In 1974, Jesus Martinez Bujanda, the fourth generation, decided to plant there Viura vines. So it's almost 50 years old vines. And then 50 years ago, it was a very risky choice because Rioja was just known because of the white, of the red wines. And he bet for the white wines in a moment where, yeah, we were just selling red wines. So finally, this was very successful and time proves him right. That was 1974. In 1989, he decided to do, because it was such a successful wine, and he decided to do the first white barrel fermented in Rioja. So it was the Burgundy style, but he thought because of the quality, it could compete with the best Burgundies. So 30 years ago, we launched our first white barrel fermented in the winery and in Rioja. And since then, it has been always very successful, vintage after vintage. So I want to explain why this estate, Finca Alto Cantabria, is so special. This is a plateau that is 500 meters above the sea level in the meanders of the river Ebro, and it's 120 meters over the surroundings. So this makes this to be very windy. It receives winds from the 4 directions, and this provides grapes extremely healthy. On the other side, this plateau receives sunlight during the whole day and during the 4 stations. So this helps to the maturity of the right and slow maturity of the grapes, providing high intensity in the aromas. Okay, and other very important thing is that the vines, you can see they are very, very old. They are 50 years old, and the irrigation is natural with the scarce rainfall that you were talking before, like 400, 450 liters per year. So this produces very low yields, much lower than the normal in Rioja, and that makes that we get highly concentrated grapes. Okay, so we have highly healthy grapes, very concentrated, and with the right maturation and intense aromas. Besides, the soil is from the Pleistocene. The bedrock is just 40 centimeters under the shallow, and we have limestone and loam and sandy loam that gives minerality to the and freshness to the wines. So, yeah, thank you. So this makes the wine very, very special. The vineyard is very special and gives us very high quality grapes. And because of this, when a couple of years ago came out the new top classification in Rioja, that is Viñedo Singular, that you can see in the label. Here it states Viñedo Singular. And this means that this is one of the few top category wines in Rioja. They must pass very strict regulations to get the status of Viñedo Singular, and then year after year, vintage after vintage, the wine must pass an exam through a blind panel, and this panel of professionals must determine that the wine is at least 93 points in a standard international, like it would be decanter or wine expectation. So always that you see Viñedo Singular, you will see that this is a top classification in Rioja. Okay, so here we have one that was besides the first white barrel fermented. And then after this, I think we can pass to the tasting. And I would appreciate if you want to say some notes too. First thing, The winemaking, we make this by hand, selecting the clusters. We make the harvest by hand in the early hours of the morning. We put this in cases and take very quickly to the winery to storage in cold temperature. Then it starts fermentation with the free-run juice in the stainless steel tank, and we put that to finish the fermentation in the new French oak barriques. After this fermentation finish, the wine stays like 6 months average in this French barrique, and with the lees that give cremosity to the wine, and we make the weekly bâtonnets. So when we go to the tasting, the color is a light straw yellow that turns goldener and goldener with the age. If we go to the nose, we can find white flowers like orange blossom. We can find the green apple that's very typical from the Viura, or like you say, Macabeo too. And hazelnuts, so that this kind of dry fruits, stone fruits, and the smoky aromas of the oak. Okay, and in the mouth, it's very complex. It's smooth. It has a freshness and good acidity and the tasty sapidity of the limestone. It has, I find, an elegant and vibrant aftertaste. And the food pairing, I will accompany this wine with fish in sauce, with baked fish, foie gras, elaborated rice like paella, and especially my favorite is with tuna tataki. Okay, and now just I will like to give you a kind of a scoop. That's the espumoso. Okay, we are going to launch the first espumoso viñedo singular, single vineyard in Rioja. That's the sparkling version. Espumoso is the word for sparkling in Spanish, and in Rioja we can choose. We can have the denomination of cava, but now we can make a sparkling under the Rioja appellation. So we decided to launch the first sparkling under Rioja appellation and with the top classification of Viñedo Singular. This will be the vintage 2017. It's the only one that we have made so far, and very exclusive, just 2,000 bottles. So I encourage you, when it's released, to catch one. And now if you want to add something to the tasting or some comments.
Well, Sylvia, I must ask straight away, is there a bottle of spumante for everybody on the call when it comes to Ireland?
Pardon? For everybody, you mean?
For everybody, there is
just 2,000 bottles. Okay. And this one, it's, I didn't say it's a limited edition too. This vintage 2019, it's 11,000 bottles. And normally it's about 8,000 bottles, or between 8 and 12,000 bottles. And there is even some vintages that we cannot produce because of the climatology. We consider that it cannot keep the quality standards that we want. Well, and another recommendation, sorry.
It's easy to see from the video, and it was a wonderful video, the second one, where you can really see how undulating the hillsides are.
Yeah,
how hard it is, and how hard it must be to hand pick all the grapes there. And I think when you see hillsides like that, you realize there's no machines. These are hand-picked grapes.
It's everything by hand, and it's in the foothills of Sierra Cantabria that you were talking before about, the mountains of Cantabria that stop all the wind from the ocean, but it gives some Atlantic. So here is the confluence between the Mediterranean, because the River Ebro comes to end to the Mediterranean, and it's the confluence between the Mediterranean climate and the Atlantic climate. So it makes very interesting wines because of the acidity and so good maturity. They are very, very complete wines. Yeah.
Brilliant. It's, I mean, it's
to me, I'm always making the comparison with France. I think it's easy to make a comparison with Burgundy here because they use the same practices with oak, different grape varieties, obviously, but the style, it's what we pay. I'm always about the money. what
Yeah.
in a different place, and I'm always looking for somewhere where I can get the same quality and the same quality basically for half.
Yes.
And I always find in Spain I always get a lot of quality, because apart from with the reds, you age the reds and only give them to me when they're ready to drink. But with the
Yeah, of course. That's difference with France, that you have to buy that en primor, and then you buy the wine and you have to keep that like 10 years until it's ready. And for example, now we have launched the Gran Reserva 2012, and we have kept that for 10 years in our wineries. We have more than 2 million bottles of Reserva and Gran Reserva getting old and getting ready. So that's financially is very important, because we keep that, yeah? And we just launched that wine when it's ready for you to drink. And it's the same with this, yeah.
That's why Irish people like to go to the off license or go to the wine shop and come back and open the bottle straight away. We don't like to wait for 2 years. Or
yeah. But with this, I have a suggestion, maybe because I love like oxidative wines. So my suggestion here is that they can buy some bottles, and then they can open one every year, or even they can now buy 2019, next year 2020, and maybe in 3 years you can make like we call vertical tasting, and tasting the same wine 2019, 2020, and 2021. And then you see how this evolves, because in every moment it has different tasting, different smell, different color. It's amazing how this changes. Yeah.
Wine changes like people. We get more interesting as we get more older.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. With this wine is true too.
We get more interesting.
But for that, it must be very high quality grapes, because not every wine can support the aging.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
just to jump in on that, because you make great point with how alike to Burgundy this style is. This is all subtle. There's nothing big here. There's nothing in your face. You have to look in the glass and you find it, and the oak just ever so slightly hits you. White flowers, hazelnuts, and smokiness, and they're all there, but they're all there in tiny parts.
yeah, and cremosity. It's so creamy too, and yeah.
So we have a wine that we're so fond of, a Burgundy wine, Chateau de Santenay, that we love, and it's not about knocking Burgundy at all. The great Burgundies are wonderful, but it just comes to mind because there was a bottle on our table about an hour ago. But it's 43 euro a bottle, and it's one of the nicest wines. But this is 26 euro a bottle. The small amounts, I know in Ireland we don't get a lot of this. I know it's on allocation, and what comes to Ireland, Audrey is really lucky to get in Ireland, I know, and we were really lucky to get it because we featured a tasting with Antonio Orte, your winemaker, in about 7 or 8 months ago, and we featured this wine as well, and it was really well received. But even then, we did a promotion on the night with, again, the little amounts we had. It's a 26 euro wine, and later on, we'll on the homepage of our site, we've added all of the wines on tonight's tasting to our New Year wine sale with 20% off. So this wine is 20 quid a bottle. And
so you go into a restaurant now and you spend 20 quid and you'll get half a bottle of house wine, or you can buy this.
Yeah.
So it's
a joy. It's a real joy. It's a pleasure to have, because I know it's rare. It's only limited production, and it's really nice to see why. And you can see it when you see the video of the vineyard and how you presented it to us this evening. It was real.
Yeah, for us, that vineyard is like, we take care of everything. We are involved in a very important project of sustainability, like long-term reforesting with the local flora, the local fauna, and everything. So that every vineyard for us is so important. But this one is like the jewel of the crown. So yeah, and in fact, it's the one that has the status of viñedo singular. Yeah.
Awesome, wonderful. But Sylvia, just before you go, I have the details in front of me of a wine trip that we were supposed to do with customers.
Okay.
Just before lockdown happened, we had just launched. We were just about to launch a trip over to Rioja, and the first day we arrived, a long weekend trip from Thursday to Sunday.
But when will be that?
This was supposed to be September 2020, and we now think we had meetings earlier on today to be able to say we think if people enjoy and want to do it, that we will hopefully do it late September this year. Or
Okay.
early October. And your winery was the very first place we were supposed to visit for tapas on the terrace.
You are very, very, very welcome to visit us, you know.
So hopefully you'll see a few of us here tonight.
Yeah, I hope so. You know, yeah, I'm in love with Ireland. I told them that I was living in Dunmoris and I miss Ireland so much. So you'll be, yeah, especially very well welcome, everyone of you.
The welcome is reciprocal, and we look forward to welcoming you here. That's how it is.
I will be as soon as I can too. Of course.
Thank you for tonight, Sylvia. We're going to jump on to start the reds. Thanks for being here, and you're welcome.
Thanks to you for inviting me again, and I hope you enjoy everything. Bye.
Thanks, Sylvia. Bye.
Thanks to you.
So back to White. That was really lovely to have Sylvia here from Valdemar. I think Fergal is I won't say in the building because that sounds a bit weird or a bit unusual, but I think Fergal, you've come in. If I'm not wrong, if you are, maybe just let us know if you are there at some point. But anyway, I believe you are, and we'll hang on to hear from you in a second. Just before we get to Fergal's wine, so we've 4 reds this evening. It's really a celebration of the Tempranillo grape. Really, there's some Graziano, there's some other light red grape varieties here this evening, but really we are going to we're going to celebrate the Tempranillo grape, and we're going to celebrate styles of Rioja as well. So a few of you may well have jumped onto the reds already now. The first couple of reds we have are really modern style red Riojas, really well made, and I'm really looking forward to hearing when Fergal does come in and when we start to talk about his De Alto wine, the modern style of winemaking that is now taking hold of Rioja and challenging actually the real traditional style of wine. And
well, it's a hard place to actually beat the old way. Like, it's so ingrained in Spain, like the oak aging, the basic the taste and what you expect from Rioja, for people to actually come along and try and make wine that tastes so different. The wine that I have in my glass is called Artuk, and it is made by, well, it was started by these guys' grandfather, and he was a real innovator, and he saw something that nobody else did. He would buy land that nobody else really thought was viable, and he saw that it was really, the quality was quite, the quality of the land. It wasn't making lots of grapes, but the grapes that it grew were fantastic. They just had great personality. This wine here, Artuk, if you've ever had Beaujolais, and I think we've all had Beaujolais at one stage or another, it's made by a process called carbonic maceration, where it makes a very soft, very juicy, very easy to drink wine, and it doesn't have any oak whatsoever. If you ever had Beaujolais Nouveau, same thing. You could drink it out of a tall glass. The complexity is not really the forefront of this wine. It's the juiciness, and it's the accessibility, and how easy it is to drink, and how pleasurable it is to drink. There's no great tannins. It's just, again, I keep on saying easy to drink. I know they're all. Well,
let's see straight away. Like, is this for everyone? Maybe for anyone who loves Rioja and was surprised about what they got when they poured this very first wine, Artuk. It's not what I normally expect of Rioja. Nope. So it's very much a changing style, and far be it for me to tell what that style is, because I don't make any wine. I don't do it. Fergal, I know you do, and I can see you there. And I think this kind of Artuk wine is similar in style about what you're doing over in El Primera now. And we have the carbonic maceration technique just here. It's whole bunch wines, and as you said earlier on, it's popping the fruit almost from the inside out.
The grapes ferment from the inside, and then after about 2% alcohol, they burst. And then they start to ferment outside, but it's intermolecular fermentation. It's the longest thing I've ever learned, but anyway, it makes for very juicy, soft wines.
Well, let me bring you in there for you. You're there, I think, and you're raring to go, and you've got us, and you have a glass of red. I've seen a glass of red in your hand.
Do you indeed?
So you're at home. You made it back to Edinburgh. I was afraid earlier. I was texting Fergal back and forth, and I wasn't hearing back. And then we were to do a test, and I wasn't sure. And I thought, this is very It's very rock and roll. It's also very Irish. And then I was like, I better just call him just before we start to make sure he's actually alive. So it's good to see you, Fergal.
And I'm just after saying intermolecular fermentation in front of you. It's like singing in front of Bob Marley. Like, is that correct? Does it make any sense what I said?
Well, firstly, I should apologize because I think we're about to have a bit of a storm here, so it's quite wild and a bit noisy sitting in the window. But yeah, strangely, carbonic and semi-carbonic is one of the oldest. Although now it's practiced in a much more kind of scientific fashion. It's pretty much the way most natural winemaking would happen. And it is one of the oldest texts in Rioja, right, going back the stuff that they would have been drinking, you know, on the Santiago de Compostela pilgrimage would have been semi-carbonic stuff. You just pick the bunches, put them in a bucket, and that's what they do. So
it sort of makes itself, really, doesn't it?
In an ideal world, that would be great. Yeah.
Simple. All right, you have something to do.
Yeah. Yep. Carry the bucket.
But these guys, I was just reading up on them. I would love to meet them because they're real revisionists. They love to, they like to bring back these old vineyards back to the way they used to be. They like to, even though the government give grants for trellis vineyards because they are more productive and they make more wine, these guys insist on bush vines, which are not as economically viable, but they make much better wine, from what I can tell. And they some of the vineyards, they call one of their vineyards, La Condada, which is the doomed one, and the other one is Finca Los Locos, the crazy people's plot, because people thought they were mental actually growing grapes on these plots because they didn't produce enough grapes to make it viable. But they've obviously proved them wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Rioja, probably everybody knows most of the Rioja domains, and the big famous ones will all have on the front label, you know, founded in 1888, 1892, something like that, all around the same kind of 5-10 year period when there was the railroad opened up, as it were, almost like the Wild West, and suddenly it became a massively important grape growing area, more so than before, and was able to export and became very significant and started making wine with barrels and got a reputation for quality. But it was largely stable, I guess, and not much changed until the last 20 years probably. And then you have had a lot of the wild and crazy new people and smaller setups. So from the kind of, you know, it was quite an established industry, as it were, lots of big, very well established family owned brands, which lovely. But in the last 15 years, a lot of the kind of younger winemakers for the big company went out and started their own projects, and it's become a much more dynamic kind of place since. I mean, Rioja, you saw the beautiful big barrel cellars and stuff, and it was traditionally quite a quiet, calm place to be involved. And now it's a bit more of a hive of activity and lots of very small, slightly weird and wonderful setups going on. So it's changed a lot in the last 10 or 15 years.
It sounds
and the regulations too.
Which like Galway. Galway just went off the scale. The heads came in, and it just became a much more interesting place where you want to go all the time. And that's just the way it sounds to me.
But is there a kind of a full circle thing about it, Fergal? Because 300 years ago, if the Basques were making wine in cement tanks, and then we moved into how oak and how Rioja became all about age statement. I mean, the whole classification being down to how long a wine is aged in a barrel. And then now, is there this resurgence of that old technique again that's starting to help winemakers make wine in a different way again without oak and without the use of oak? Or is...
Yeah, I wouldn't overemphasize the kind of commercial impact of all of the small new stuff, but it really has made it a much more interesting and diverse place, and certainly pushed the quality boundaries. There's a lot more kind of extreme winemaking and viticulture, as you were just talking about, going on than there was. I mean, partly that will be driven by climate change and other stuff as well, but yeah, all opening up different values attached to different vineyards that were previously being too extreme, radically different approaches to winemaking. So yeah, a kind of exciting and fun place. And I missed a little bit at the beginning, but just as a place to visit, that kind of, it's one of the most accessible and easy, particularly from Ireland, flying to Bilbao, and magnificent food, and still by European standards, incredibly good value to eat and drink.
Well, if you remember, we had just mentioned a few minutes ago about the wine trip we had planned. And while we were going to Valdemar on the first night we arrived, it was to Alto Rioja Mass to you on the last day, on the Sunday, before the flight home. Anyway, I'll be back to you about that, because we'll all be bashing your door down to try and get a trip over there, I think, in the next kind of 6-8 months. So who knows? Should we jump into your wine, into El Primero, and keep moving things along?
I think we should.
Let's do that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just so you know, Fergal, I think and we need to do that also before the storm starts to affect your internet and your broadband in Edinburgh, because I assume you're back in Edinburgh now, are you? Is that where you're from?
Yeah.
Lovely. They don't have storms in Australia, so I suppose you're not there. And the south of France and wherever else you are, you missed at the start. I was introducing you, letting everyone know that in our lives, if I ever want to feel that I'm not actually as busy as I think I am, I do actually think of you making wine in the south of France and in Australia and in Rioja, and then running Alliance Wine. It's a busy life, so we're kind of lovely to have you here tonight, and to catch you in Edinburgh for an hour at least.
My pleasure. I should probably yes, take that opportunity and say there's a very big team involved in all of those projects, without which, yes, I would be lost. So we're talking about changes and all the changes in Rioja. So De Alto is definitely one of the newer wineries in Rioja. I think our first vintage, oh God, I can't even remember, 2011. So kind of about 10 years ago. So a strange combination. You talked about all the other projects, but Giles, who I think you've met before, who I met kind of on the first night of the MW course, and we started a company together, and we do have these projects all over the world and at various stages. We kind of get involved, set it up, and then generally speaking have people who are far better than us do the actual work after that. But Spain was always a really big passion for both of us. As you said, Australia was where we first hatched the plan and is one of the other projects, but Spain has always been an area that we've both done a lot of work. And that was always part of the plan, to the extent that actually our very first wine we made in Australia was a Grenache Tempranillo, trying to do a kind of Rioja lookalike. And everybody knows that, it's no exaggeration to say that Spanish wine still in the international market and in Spain, domestic market, Spanish wine is Rioja. Rioja dominates everything. It dominates the sales, it dominates the value, it dominates all the top end, Ribera and a few other areas catching up. But Rioja is still, if you ask most people about Spanish wine, Rioja is the very first word that comes to mind. So we had a lot of contacts, and it would be remiss to say that we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing without tapping into those contacts. And Vic Manzanos, who's one of those families, he's on the 5th generation again, winery founded in 1890. So he was kind enough to give us access to some of his very best vineyards for the fruit. And we've got Paul Shinny, who's probably, well, outside of Spain, the world's greatest kind of Spanish wine expert. He'd blush to hear me say it, but he spent kind of 40 years living in between Spain and London, and writes and tastes kind of, he's got encyclopedic knowledge. So when we were looking at fruit and what to do, there was a big bunch involved. Borca, who's the viticulturalist on the ground there, working with him to isolate the vineyard plots. So we started off, Grenache is, as we said, sometimes as an outsider, you always want to do something a little bit different. And there's so many established firms doing an absolutely magnificent job, and we're tasting some of those tonight within that kind of established mold. So no point in going there and doing the same thing. So we wanted to do something different. Partly for us, that was focusing on Grenache. which is close to our hearts, partly focusing on areas that are possibly valued maybe within Rioja, but not so well known. Rioja Oriental, which you showed on the map at the beginning, when basically the eastern end is still the biggest part of Rioja. It's where the most of the volume comes from, but within it, huge diversity itself. And so we wanted to work down there. So we're at the kind of extreme vineyards within the Oriental, working with very old Grenache. So rather unusually, the wine that we're going to taste, the Alto Primero, is Grenache based with Tempranillo. And then,
sorry, Fergal, in even Australia, you were talking about finding vineyards that were nearly lost and you love, and you did, I think, the same thing in Spain. You found these vineyards that, you know, that really needed to be brought back to life.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's a question of scale. So pretty much everything that we do everywhere is on a smaller scale, where you can really do quite extreme selection. And you know, almost all the big traditional Rioja companies source, and all great Rioja, even the very best ones, tend to be sourced from a blend. And you know, blending is a funny thing in wine. Most people kind of think, is a blend as good as a straight anything? Blending usually is the real winemaker's art. It's where you get the best bits of everything and you try and put, you know, 2 + 2 = 5 if you get it right. And most of the great Riojas for the last 100 years, and all of the legendary things like the great 1964 Grand Reservas that, if you're lucky enough, you might still find the odd bottle of lying around, are very complicated blends of, you know, potentially 20, 30 different plots, then all aged, and all the different zones. Alavesa has beautiful acid and structure. Rioja Alta has the most kind of generous classic Rioja style, and that beautiful red pure fruit and soft tannin. And then Rioja Oriental is more generous, weighty. It's the richer style. So each area has a contribution to make. Yeah, so you can see, even looking there at the size. So Alavesa is kind of on the north of the Ebro River and is up against the mountains. It's generally speaking the coolest area, and produces the most structured, long-lived wines. It's where a lot of the kind of new interesting stuff is happening, because you're going up into the mountains, particularly in these days as well, actually also for whites. And then right down as you go, so the mountains are kind of in the north, it doesn't show it there. And as you go down to the bottom in Rioja Oriental, it's getting warmer and drier, and you're into Grenache territory. So Tempranillo does better in the kind of high altitude, cooler bits. And as you get warmer and dry, I mean, Grenache, you probably know, is associated with Chateauneuf and the Rhone Valley and these warm areas. It doesn't need as much rainfall as well. So it really thrives in that vineyard areas where almost nothing else will grow. I mean, you know, grass won't grow, weeds won't grow in half of it, but Grenache will still thrive. So yeah, so Grenache for us, big part of it. Rioja Oriental, maybe less known, off the beaten track, but still incredible potential. So the wine that we're tasting is a blend of old vine Grenache, some trellis, some bush vine, mostly bush vine, and then a little bit of very old bush vine Tempranillo. Just so selection of plots we made, I can't remember on the individual vintage of this, probably 1,500 cases, something like that, 2,000 cases. So it's very, sorry, go ahead, Will.
What type of percentage, Fergal, of, again, I know you're going back 10 years if you started in 2011, but what type of percentages are you talking about Tempranillo? Because Grenache is so much bigger than Tempranillo. So I would have thought it would overpower. So Tempranillo is still bringing elegance, or because Grenache is going to bring a little bit more power than Tempranillo, I would have thought.
Yeah, I mean, it should be said the very first vintage of this particular wine that we're tasting is the one that we're tasting, is 2019. So we'd made some other wines previous, but this was a new one in a slightly, I guess, in a modern style. So to kind of give a contrast with some of the other wines that we're going to taste tonight, this is Grenache. It's from Rioja Oriental, so it's from a single zone. And then winemaking, again, quite different. So it's all hand harvested, which you have to do when it's old bush vine. You can't get any machinery in there to harvest. It has to be all hand picked into little small trays. then very unusually for Rioja up until the last 10, 15 years, about a quarter to a third, depending on the vintage, is whole bunch. So we fill up these very small fermenters, just flat tanks, which give a very high kind of surface area for the skins. Put kind of fill about a third of it, 25 to a quarter to a third of it with whole bunches, and then the rest then is crushed and put on top. So you get a kind of, you get a whole bunch semi-carbonic. It's not carbonic, which is very different. But these are really high quality grapes that would normally go to kind of Gran Reserva level, but you're treating them in a very different way. So they get a cold soak pre-ferment to help with really darker color. You'll notice the color in this for its type is a bit darker, more delicate aromatics. And then what would other key differences? I guess it would go into just French oak for more structure and more tightness rather than American oak. And all of the oak for this is 2 years old and 3 years old. Not a lot of Rioja is aged in much older oak, 5, 10 years old, sometimes older than that. So, and at this level would go into probably 100% of it would go into oak. Whereas for us, we would maybe, depending on the year, age half in concrete, half in oak, or sometimes only a third in oak. So it's a very different style to the kind of traditional. This would really sit firmly in the kind of contemporary Rioja. So building on all of the best things that we like about the traditional stuff, the amazing old vineyards, and still using oak. So it's not totally removed from the style everybody would expect, but maybe brighter. I mean, for us, the word that we use is energy. It's got that kind of vibrancy and, you know, like, more immediate.
Well, when we tried the last two wines, the thing that comes across, first of all, is that traditional Rioja sort of nose of, you've got coconut, you've got sort of that really oaky nose, and it comes to the fore. Whereas with the Artouque and your own wine, they're much more zesty and crunchy and
they're
vibrant.
Crunchy red apples, aren't they? Like, yeah, it's totally different profile, and I love that. I love that. That fresh red fruit is just bursting out of the glass, isn't it? And it's not what you expect when you're pulling the cork on a bottle of Rioja. And I heard you say it before, Fergal. It's just it's really refreshing. I think your comment was, you know, why compete with all of these massive wineries who've been doing it one way for so many years, and a lot of it in a similar style, when you could just change the style, change things up, let the fruit sing, and it shows in the glass, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
it's a big debate. We'll probably get back to later about, you know, all the changes in the rules, and there was a big, you know, it's been 10 years, so as you know, probably all the rules changed in 2017, 2019, and most people felt it was probably that, you know, traditionally, I guess most Rioja drinkers will understand Coseca, Crianza, Reserva, Gran Reserva, and most, you know, that was complicated enough. In many ways, but under the new rules now, you've got zonal wines and village wines and single vineyard wines, and each of those can be Crianza, Reserva. So, and that was to kind of reflect all the changes and all the, you know, the new people like us doing things completely differently. You can now have single varietal white wines, which weren't before. Everything had to be white Rioja, and now it can be white Rioja Garnacha Blanco, or white Rioja Maturano Blanco, or white Rioja Malvasia.
Do you welcome the change with open arms?
Yes, albeit it's always, as these things are, a bit of a practical compromise that really tries to keep everybody happy by recognizing everything. And I think as a result, probably makes things a little bit complicated on the label.
Will it alienate drinkers because there's so much to actually think about before you actually know what you're buying?
I still think at the end of it, most people will know the brand that they like, but more importantly, just Rioja, the name. And then still, you probably do to a certain extent get what you pay for. So you're going to buy a bottle of £20 Rioja or £50 Rioja or £5 Rioja. It's you know, so I think some of the things like Reserva still have real meaning that everybody will recognize.
Rioja is
I see some questions coming in. There's one there about traditional taste. And I would say, building on what the lady from Valdemar was talking about, one of the great things which is so rare in the world now about traditional Rioja is it comes out ready to drink. They've done all the aging for you, and that is so rare in the wine world now, where everybody's trying to get a return on their investment pretty quickly, and no winery wants to keep stock except for the guys in Bordeaux who'll sell it all when it's 20 years old for thousands of pounds, to stop anybody else making that money after they sell it young. But Rioja is really the only area in the world where even the regulations insist that you keep the wine and Grand Reserva for 5 years before you release it, and many wineries are still selling stuff that's 10 years old, and that is a really unique strength in the world, and it's not something that we're doing, so it doesn't taste in that kind of you know, with that additional kind of age. I mean, it will. This wine would easily keep for 10-15 years and improve all the way through, and you'll start to get more of those secondary notes and all of the other. But
basically what you're saying, we have to keep it. You give it to us before, and we have to keep it.
Well, you don't. I mean, the issue is, as you can see from the color and all of the fruit, there's a color and a fruit profile and an intensity to this that you won't get in a traditional style, but you probably would if you kept it yourself and aged it for 10 years. So it's not that you can't have that as well, but it's a different take. And I mean, these days, I don't know, that kind of energy that you get in a slightly more youthful wine is kind of, to my mind, still something that would be a real shame to miss. This is not kind of carbonic entry level wine. This is top level fruit, with all of that complexity, but it will pick up additional complexity through aging, definitely.
On that very note, Fergal, we tried all 6 wines just before we came on, right? And I had to do a double take, because take Izadi, right? Izadi has 170. So Izadi was the white wine we had earlier on, and there was the guys in Izadi are small enough, but they own 178 hectares of their land, whereas our Touk that we just tried a few moments ago own only 22 hectares. So much smaller operation. And I don't know if any or all of you are drinking both of the first 2 reds that we've had, which are both made in that more modern style and no oak. The Artouk is the Artouk is 17 euro a bottle, retail price. And that goes on say on promo price tonight, right? It's like, or this weekend, it's like 13 quid a bottle. But our Touk is 17 quid, and this is 16. Now, when I tried the 2 before we came on, I thought we must have it backwards, even though it's only €1 or 2. I felt it was backwards, because this is 16 euro down at 12 quid or something. I have to say, and it must be all the addition of Grenache. And it probably is because you're in front of us, so I have to blow a little bit of smoke at you. But it's remarkable, the quality. I mean, I love the Artouk as well, but there's complexity here now that comes probably from you being a bit of a Grenache master, from your experience both in Rioja and Australia. You know, you've probably, do you feel that? I mean, do you feel you've mastered Grenache over the last 10 years? Do you have a handle on it?
No, a lot of work to be done there still. You know, that's the fun thing about the wine business. No matter what you do, every vintage start from scratch. You as some people say, you take your knowledge and then you realize it was kind of, you need to leave it at the door and start again from scratch, depending on what you find, you know, in the vineyard on as it gets close to harvest date at the time. So no, still lots of learning, but yeah, we in terms of some of the stuff, we would be maybe more confident having done it around the world and similar, but it's dangerous to take knowledge that you have from elsewhere and try and apply it in a new area, because you always learn and have to adjust. You know, these wines naturally, Grenache here doesn't get as ripe as some of the other areas that we work in. It has more crunchy tannin. But yeah, certainly the kind of experience with the whole bunch stuff and was very useful here, and is a key part of the style of this wine. That vibrancy and that kind of slightly crunchier, fresher tannin, a bit more of the kind of raspberry, cherry that you wouldn't associate with a traditional Rioja style, because that you really only get for the first few years, and that will be replaced over time with more of those traditional flavors. But then the tannin profile in this as well, Grenache has lower tannin.
Yeah.
On average, but we're using really high quality French oak. So our barrels would cost probably twice as much as an American, standard barrel would get in Rioja. That would be the kind of the main barrels that would be used in the traditional style. So these are give quite a different tannic structure to it as well. So
I have just been asked by someone just to make sure that everyone knows the wine that we are on. So it is the El Primero Rioja. We don't want you, Fergal, to be giving plaudits to someone else's wine. That would be a really bad evening's work. So it's the El Primero, which is the fourth wine. This was always the risk that we would get carried away listening to you, and we wouldn't go to the last two wines quick enough. So you are, I think, going to hang with us and stay with us and chat through as we taste the last two and the more traditional styles of Rioja, which you'll be well familiar with. Would be probably you'll never say it yourself, Fergal, but it would also be a good point to say that as the last wine on El Primero Rioja is really Grenache based. Fergal won Best Grenache in Australia for his Australian project. You'd be too humble to say it yourself, but that I think was last year. But just shows what a powerhouse you've become over there, since you've been working with Grenache long before many others did over in McLaren Vale. So it shows here in the glass, like it shows what
we're drinking something that somebody knows what they're doing, has just made. Basically, the quality shines through, even though it's different to the Rioja that we're all used to. Like, it's just an absolutely awesome glass of wine.
Really different. So you're gonna stay with us, Fergal, aren't you? We're gonna move
absolutely.
Yeah. So we've Taurus. The next wine on the evening is Taurus Ibéricus. So actually, while you're pouring Taurus Ibéricus, can we kind of get a feel, because we haven't gone out to anyone yet, just to hear how the food has gone this evening? Has anyone done their drop chef, cooked some paella? Fergal, we sent out everyone on the tasting tonight would have got a Spanish box with some paella and patatas bravas, and they had to cook it themselves. But there's no such thing as a free lunch, but they had to cook it themselves. But they got all these fresh ingredients. So anyone who's willing to kind of let us know if you did cook some of the recipes, we would absolutely love to hear if the food has worked, if it's gone okay, if drop chef has done a great job. Because we're starving here. We haven't had any.
We had a bit of pizza.
We're watching you all eat. We had a few folded over pizzas done on the George Foreman, and we cannot recommend it highly enough. It's really good. It beats waiting on a takeaway to arrive just before this starts. So yeah, while you're pouring Taurus Ibéricus, it'd be great to hear. So I don't know, anyone, Jerry, you're in Portmarnock.
We've actually eaten, and we've enjoyed every element of the food. And hi, Fergal, good to see you again. And congratulations on what you've done to date. We've so far we've had a fabulous tasting. We did all the food, and we've made our own dessert. We did a tarte de Santiago, just to throw something else extra into the equation. So it's been wonderful. I personally find my own odyssey with Spanish wine goes way back when Fergal was still in short pants, and at the time, particularly Spanish white wines were the old-fashioned, almost semi-oxidized style. And to me, that's what's really stood out, because I've traveled a lot in Spain, I've walked a lot in Spain, and what's intrigued me about Spain generally is the passion that they have about their indigenous grapes and how they've come along and they've been able to produce these modern style stainless steel fermentation wines, like we tasted in the two whites. I think it's really where the future of winemaking is at, because 30 years ago, Spanish white wines were a minuscule proportion of wines you would taste, and they had a certain identity with them. Now, as Michael mentioned earlier on, you can have a wine coming from Spain which you can compare to a reasonably decent Chablis at a better price. I think that's very, very positive. The reds we've tasted two so far. I love the El Primero. It's wonderful. I think Grenache is a great grape. There is life beyond Tempranillo, and it's good to see it. And well done on that. So as I say, we've had our food. We're enjoying the wine, the food that Drop Chef gave us. We had a lot of work to do on it. I did most of it, by the way. I did the cooking, but it worked out very well. I'm sorry, Will, you're stuck on pizza. But if you want to call by later on, we've a bit left over. But as I say, well done. So far, a great tasting. Looking forward to the last two wines. And as I say, great to see you, Fergal. You're doing a super job. And yeah, looking forward to your contribution on the wines in which you're not involved.
Thanks, Sherry.
Well done, Jared. Thanks. That was a comprehensive update.
It was quite comprehensive.
Yeah, very, very, very good update. Yeah, thank you. So let's go traditional. Let's move the boundaries a little bit and go back to what we know and what we may be expecting. We put a cork on it.
Basically, what we're drinking now is a wine made in Rioja by Miguel Torres wines, which are normally they make wines in Penedès, which is further east, and they make them from Cabernet Sauvignon, I think, primarily, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they not just Cabernet. They do a lot of Cabernet over in Penedès.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's that's where they have Mas La Plana, where in the 70s Miguel Torres first planted Cabernet Sauvignon, and that's
innovator, yeah.
So innovator in Spain of sorts.
Mid-typing,
apologies.
So this is his Rioja version, his Tempranillo, and it's a Crianza Tempranillo. So Crianza, I don't know, I think most people know at this stage, is an age statement. So by law, by DO law or by Rioja law, it has to spend at least 1 year in oak, 1 year in bottle before it's released to the general public. And it's like most wine companies will actually age them a little bit longer and release them perfectly ready, as Fergal and Sylvia said, just perfectly ready to drink. It's Rioja's real point of difference, that when it comes out of the bottle, it's just gorgeous. It's lovely and soft, and that's why we love it here. It's so accessible, and price-wise, for quality, I think the wines of Rioja really they really punch above their weight. We're just mad about them. Is that right?
About Rioja generally?
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, in a year ago, like, we're such a small nation, and a year ago we were at the 7th in pure bottle output from Rioja. So the exports are 130 million bottles of Rioja a year, and Ireland takes 5% of that. So we're their 6th most important
Somebody
market
told
now.
us it was a race to drink more Rioja than anybody else.
But this is classic style, isn't it? So I think we've gone through the maps and the zones of Rioja, but if we come further down, so we are, we had a tasting about 3 months ago, maybe. One of the last tastings we did was with Bodegas Torres, and you almost couldn't do a Rioja tasting and not include Torres somewhere, or a Spanish wine tasting. And the last tasting we did was with their export manager, Lucas Gayak, and we actually did every wine except Rioja. And we focused on their wines from Penedès and their wines from all around Spain. They make some Priorat, and they have projects in almost every place. But at a time when Spain was kind of probably lacking with innovation in the 70s, it was Miguel Torres, who is the older gent, or the gent you see in every one of these photographs here. He's the 3rd generation Torres, and he has done huge amounts for Spain in the wine industry, but he's also done huge amounts for climate change. He's become a leader. He actually, I read a story earlier on. He had, in 2007, he brought his family to see this movie about Al Gore, I think An Inconvenient Truth it was called.
Yeah.
And he brought his family to see it. And he came back from watching that movie. It was Al Gore's it was all about Al Gore's push to try and show Americans the effects of global warming, say. And so he came back from that thinking, we, as winemakers, this is going to come at us 10 years down the line. We've got to do something. So in 2008, he started Torres Earth. And they put this huge agenda together to reduce carbon emissions. They were going to reduce carbon emissions by 30% for their company, and they're 1,300 people in Torres, so they're one of Spain's biggest employers. And to reduce carbon emissions by 30%, and they achieved that in 2020.
Yeah.
And now their plan is to reduce by 60% by 2030. And going on from that, then they are planning eventually by 2035 to be carbon neutral. So for a company their size, where it's quite rare that you have wineries that are so prominent on our supermarket shelves, but are also so prominent at the higher end and the premium, and respected for it as well, which is a really difficult one to task, because I don't know if I couldn't name any other winery that have done it where they've managed to
They've
actually,
spanned the whole.
they've got the volume,
Yeah.
they've got all the volume in supermarkets, and they've huge Sangre de Toro and Vina Sol, and yet we are all still happy to drink wines at this level and above from Terres, because we know and can expect that when you pull a cork in a bottle of this, that you're going to get something that's really special. So here's just a couple of they're you know, it's amazing. Their presentation when they came to us was so much about what they do is about climate change and about how we all have to do our part. But this was a small slide that struck me of just how global warming was affecting the climate by 1 degree a year, and they knew they had to do something. So that's just the commitments they made, and then here was how they did it. So solar panels, the carbon neutral and energy efficiency in the wineries and so on. And it's just very real. And then we started to research earlier, didn't we? Their winery in Rioja. So Terres have wineries in everywhere else except Rioja, and they're now building one in Rioja. But this is what it's looking like, and it is remarkably.
We went through a thing. We didn't know whether it was real or not. It just looks like it's not. Well, it's not
part of the land and part of the landscape, and it's the son of the architect who designed their head winery over in Penedès on the eastern coast, very near Barcelona. Has designed this winery over in Rioja, and it's all about I think being part of the landscape. Anyway, we for a while earlier on did not believe that this is very real. So here, let's come back. Actually, we'll jump out of that for a few moments, and we'll come back to Rioja. It's a really, it's a classy glass of traditional, Rioja, isn't it? It's French oak, aged for 12 months, and this is a little bit more of what you expect when
you open a bottle of Rioja. Do you like this, Fergal, this style of wine?
I love it. Just listening to you talking, I mean, I should say from my perspective as well, on our very tiny scale, as I said earlier, we've got lots of very small projects around the world, but we spend a lot of time looking at sustainability as well. And I would have to say Terres are one of the 1 or 2 leading wineries in the world spending their own money on research and on innovation. And I've got enormous respect for everything that they do. We're on a number of committees with them on various projects and share a few platforms, but really they're definitely leading the way.
They really mean it. Yeah, it's not just a tokenism. Yeah. It's like they.
No, and they're great at sharing all of their knowledge, all of the resources, everything that they pass on. I mean, it's a really genuine commitment, way ahead of when it became a kind of a trendier thing recently. And they're a fantastic kind of family-owned operation. And yeah,
I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he was saying about the quality of wine. He said, I had this bottle of wine, and you pick it up and it was so heavy. It was amazing. And like, you really knew. And I was like somebody smoking in front of me. I was going, why would you want a heavier bottle? And it really brought it back to me, because lighter bottles are the thing now because of basically transport and energy and everything. And I said it to him, I says, the bottles should be light. There's no need for this big heavy bottle. And then he said, well, maybe you're right, yeah. But it makes sense. It's what Terres do as well.
Yeah.
Well, in classic style, we've already. I just looked at the clock, and we're already hitting bang on 9 o'clock. So so this is a record now. Every time we've had a chat with you, Fergal, and it's our fault, not yours, in fairness, because we always go over. But it's good fun. It's great. It's a joy chatting to you. So if anyone did or does need to drop off, just to remind you all that this is being recorded, and on probably Tuesday we will email everyone a copy of it. So plenty of people don't ever want to open all 6 bottles of wine anyway on a night, so it's a great chance to be able to dip back in when you do, and replay maybe the segment on the wine that you didn't open or that you didn't have. So anyway, we will go into the last wine maybe. And as I say, we'll send on the link if anyone does need to go on. If anyone has drank 6 bottles of wine and hasn't had their paella yet, you might need to go and get well done. You might need to get on and have the paella. But otherwise, let's jump to the reserves. So we're into 36 months of age or 3 years of age now. So the Crianza has had 2 years of age.
Well, this has had 7 years, nearly 7 years.
Particularly kind of, I suppose, going above and beyond the necessity or the need. But that's small winery, isn't it? Let's go there maybe.
So Navajas is this small, much smaller operation in the grand scheme of things. Now, probably not as small as Fergal's operation, but still small in an old Rioja style operation. They tend to age their wines for much longer than normal. Only release them when they're perfectly ready and singing straight out of the bottle. It's my favorite Spanish wine in WineOnline's in bag. It just comes out like their Crianza is 2016.
The current
Crianza is 2016. Their Reserve is 2015. Their Grand Reserve is 210, I think, or 211.
The Grand Reserve is 11. Yeah, I mean, this is I suppose the kind of, I suppose why you're saying that is when we did the remember we did the tasting with Bodegas Valdemar, and we had their winemaker Antonio Orte on, and they mentioned this very point, which you'll recognize as well, Fergal, that unlike it's not something I would think about ever, but unlike big commercial companies who are obliged to release vintages, like you said about Bordeaux, they want to release them and get paid for them. Or unless they're Bordeaux, I suppose they keep them for a few years. But many wineries, or most wineries, who want to actually sell them and turn them into cash as quick as they possibly can, because shareholders want their money back as quick as. Small family-owned wineries or smaller wineries can make the choices based upon the wine that their family is going to put out there, and when the right time is to drink that, rather than when they're going to actually make a book or two. So the minimum statement, so you're not allowed to release a Crianza wine for 2 years, and you have to release it in its 3rd year or later. And the same then with Reserva. You can release a Reserva after 3 years or later, depending on when you want to release it. So if you look around on your shelf the next time you're in the off-license, the brands of Reserva wines that you'll see, that you'll know, because they're in supermarkets and everywhere, they'll only be 3 years old, because they'll release them, they'll try and turn them, they'll follow the guidelines, but just about. And then you get wines like this where it's 7 years old and it's not released after 3 years because actually it wasn't ready then. So following to what you were saying, Fergal, actually Spain and Rioja are so renowned for it that they do all the aging for you, and this is a real testament to a family who are making a wine, and they're actually just letting it go when they think it's ready for you to drink. It's really nice, isn't it?
It's like they love their customers more than other countries. They only give them the wines when they're ready to drink. You know, everybody else will just throw out any old thing. Spain will just hold on. Not yet. Okay, now you can have it.
I'll just throw up a slide on the family here. So this is the family, the Navajas family. Antonio's in the middle there. The winery was started in 1918. 1987, the family bought out all the shares in the winery and or 1983, sorry. And in 1987, they rebuilt the winery and they went down underneath and built the big cellar that you see below. But it's still a small operation. And so on the left, you'll see now it's Antonio Jr. and his wife on the right, who run the company. But on the left, it's Roberto is in charge of production. He makes the wine now, and Mercedes is who we deal with all the time. She's the export manager, and it's just really nice dealing with a family who are just really passionate about what they do. We've been importing this wine for about 3 years now, going on 3 years, and it was one of the ones that came about because 3 different customers of ours asked us. They were buying it actually, Fergal, from Edinburgh, from Scotland, from a website in Edinburgh. One of them was, and he said, like, surely you can get this in Ireland, and they weren't here at the time. And cynically, I thought, it's a Rioja, it's going to be a traditional style Rioja, it will be similar. But on every time I put my nose in the glass with all of these wines, they over deliver. They over deliver. So I haven't done it just yet. So have you?
Not yet.
I'm hoping it will now as well again.
Have you tried this, Fergal? This wine? Have you had?
I have drank many bottles of that over the years. Yes, yeah, indeed, absolutely classic, and in fact, yeah, one of the most gluggable wines out there, I think, when in terms of just getting it at that perfect point, ready to go. Yeah, it's I mean, there's not a lot to say on it. There's French oak, there's American oak here, so there is coconut, there's gutsy vanilla here as well.
But it's classic what you expect, isn't it?
Well, if you think, what's 15 euros?
No, like 17 now, but it's 22 a bottle. You're thinking Crianza, because we would give a bottle of that right beside you if you wanted. So we're on the Reserva here, which is this, and you all have this. But another one of our favorites, and I think I put it in on the promotional sale. It's on the New Year wine sale on the homepage as well. But that's the Crianza, and the Crianza is 5 years old, going on 6 years old now, and it's 16 euro a bottle normally, so down to about 12.50 or something. Anyway, they're all just, there's a lot of, dare I say, there's a lot of Rioja that can be generic, and it's one of those wines you have to probably spend 12 euro maybe and above. Would that be fair?
Easily.
It's you can get some generic stuff out there. When you get the traditional well-made ones like this, they're really good. It's just I love seeing it. I'm really inspired to try new ones when I see the styles coming from El Primero and from Artuk, and really challenging all the traditional ways of doing it. It's great to see, because it's just great to see innovation happening, isn't it? Like, it's great to see change. It's great to see. It was boring for a bit of a while drinking Rioja, because you kind of you
knew exactly
what you were going to get.
Yeah.
And that's the reason it's become so popular in Ireland, and we love it so much, because of that assurance. Yeah, we know that if we're going to buy a glass of it or buy a bottle of it, especially in a restaurant where maybe we're going to spend a bit more money on it, that's when we want to have the assurance that it's going to be exactly what we expect. But it's great seeing now, we're now seeing in an off-license sense or online, we're seeing people that maybe if you're spending 15 to 20 euro, you're a bit more willing to actually to gamble and to play and to kind of try a couple of new ones. And that's why these are working for all your Thistledown wines from Australia are performing really well for us. And a lot of people who buy those don't really know them. They're they don't know them because lots do, but I think when they discover them or come upon them, they're kind of seeing something different and more of a modern style that's fruit forward, and that's all about the wine and less about what's done to it afterwards. And we haven't got your Terres Fideles from France in just yet, but the next shipment of that comes, or the next shipment of your wine that we get in, you've got stock of that for us, I hope.
Busy on that. Some new releases about to come, so quite exciting things over there. Yeah, just signing those off. But just on those, in terms of where we're at and the Rioja spectrum, and I think a lot of the other kind of more modern, so it's small. It adds huge diversity, even in the area that we're in. We were talking about clay limestone vineyards earlier, which account for a huge swathe of the middle of the valley. But as soon as you go up the edge into the mountains, which is where a lot of new vineyards are being planted because of climate change, or you go down where we are in the really kind of old, almost heading into Aragon and a different continental climate, you go off. So we kind of represent us, I guess, in some ways, the fringes. We're never going to become the main event. We don't want to become the main event. It's about, kind of small selection to show what diversity is there. But I think still, Rioja is a winning formula. Why, it's frustrating, for us, the frustration was like, there are all these things out there that are missed, but they're small. The main event is still going to be those classic wines, and, they've been an enormous success for 100 years. I hope they'll be an enormous success for another 100 years.
I think
but hopefully there's just a little bit more to the story now, and some of those great vineyards that were maybe blended away now have their own kind of voice. I mean, the new rules, under the new rules, there are over 140 different villages that are allowed to append their name to the label as a single village. In 50 years' time, how many of those will be known? How many of those have enough? I don't know, maybe 10, maybe 15. So all of the changes, but, for us, it was largely about, some of those great old Grenache sites and a slightly different take on the winemaking to show a different side to the fruit. But I think, as I said, we're small and it will probably stay that way, just in very, very selective little parcels to show another side. But the main event will still and probably always be those classic wines that are a great blend of the three areas and have that fantastic silky tannin and structure and balance. And
Well,
know,
to be
I
fair,
still love drinking those as well. It's not an either or. There's, I think, and I hope, room for both.
yeah, it's a great concrete base to build your whole country's wine industry on, is Rioja wines, like our traditional style. And then you can just play a bit part. You're like grunge, you know. You can come along, and every now and then a grunge band will come along and be fantastic. But at least you freshen things up and you make things more interesting.
Cool.
Fergal, couple of questions.
Yeah.
Someone has just said, I think it might be John, has said that they opened some of your Great Escape Chardonnay at Christmas, and their guests thought it was one of the nicest Chardonnays nicest wines they've ever had. You have a story about that, don't you? It's a sad, a lovely anecdote.
Oh well, yes. Sadly, that vineyard was destroyed in the recent fires, and the couple who owned it, who we bought the fruit from, and we bought the majority of the fruit from the whole vineyard, including the little block of Sauvignon and Arnaise and a whole load of other stuff. It was one of the legendary vineyards of the Adelaide Hills, and they were in their kind of early 70s, and the vineyard burnt down, was just completely destroyed, and they've decided not to replant it. So that was probably the last. Well, we'll keep making Great Escape, but it's going to have a year off, and then we've just found a new vineyard to work with. But yeah, that was the last vintage. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, you know,
I see another question from Diane about Gran Reserva after 3 years, and Gran Reserva is 5 years. It's got to be 5 years, of which I can't remember, at least 2 have to be in barrel and 2 in bottle.
But I think what Diane was saying, Fergal, and you answered this your way. I tried to put a couple of points as I saw them in there, but she was making the point more so that while Navajas have not released this Reserva, instead they didn't release.
For the Crianza, yeah, I get you now. Yeah,
it's 7. So does it not automatically become a Grand Reserva?
Yeah, strangely enough, there are all kinds of paperwork rules as well about, you know, as ever, admin gets in the way of all these things, and you declare the wines at a given level, and after you declare them, no matter how long you keep them, it's still a Crianza.
Well, then that makes mine, because I mentioned just there, but I thought it was that they were actually going for the style. So everything I just said in my reply, Diane, completely ignore that.
No, but it is, because you are going for that style, but even still, you've just decided that that's your style, and you can have a Crianza that is 5 years old, but you just declare it as a Crianza, and then you can't sell it as anything else at a given time. So it's quite. They have a great big building in the middle of Rioja with about 80 people on it who go around checking absolutely all the paperwork to make sure everything is on. It's quite.
Those guys.
Yeah, as in everywhere, it's. There's a lot of paperwork. So sorry, did I see what was?
There is a question there from Jan. I haven't managed to get through it. It's well, let's do it. It's if we mean Cremant and Champagne being 2 different appellations of origin, Rioja and Cava would be the same. 2 different appellations of origin. Cava can be done. Jan, are you there, Jan? If you want to jump on with us, and we'll have a chat if you're there.
Yeah.
Hello.
How are you, Jan? Good to see you.
No, we bring in a lot of the Cremant when we come back from France, because obviously it's not Champagne, it's not from Champagne, but you know, it's really good. I'm sure you've got plenty of it there yourselves, and you know, it's méthode traditionnelle, as they say in French. And I'm just wondering, is it a similar comparison, because this is a new wine, this Rioja, sparkling Rioja that they have, this new one they're bringing out. Is it you know, the way Cava is, like Cava is, I don't know much. Is Cava a region, or is it a style?
Cava is a region. It's a defined region, but it's actually huge. It's little tiny parcels. It's not one big contiguous region. It's little parcels all over the place that apply, including some that would have been in Rioja. So you can make that wine and release it as Cava.
Okay.
If you wanted to, in some areas, not in all areas, it's really complicated.
Which is different.
But generally, because there's such a huge increase in sparkling wine, and because all wineries now want to have something else for a tasting, they want to show, they decided that it would be good to have sparkling wine with the Rioja name on it, but if it was going to be Rioja, it needed to be the very top quality. So it has to be Method Traditional. It's got quite a lot of quality stuff around it. So you could technically release it as Cava, I think, in some areas, but they wanted, so wineries can have something to kind of show and taste. It's got Rioja, and it's
better for Rioja as a region to have their own classification for sparkling wine. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, so some of the top ones, as we saw earlier, are just being released now, even though they've had the ability from kind of 2017, so they've had to keep it on tirage, and they're only just starting to release them now. So it's be interesting. I haven't tasted many yet, I have to confess.
Looking forward to it.
So
thanks for clarifying. That's great. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
John, if it is John, sorry, Jay McCarthy, just there on the Great Escape, we must still have. I've Sean here beside me, who runs our warehouse, who's down in our warehouse all on. I think we still have maybe 40 odd bottles of that very vintage of Great Escape. I've just put the link on it there to our site, but there's definitely a little bit left of that, which pretty much all the staff here run through ourselves, because we love it. It's a €22 bottle of wine, and there's a wonderful elegance. I'm sorry, but there's it's a really all those Thistledown wines, Fergal, are a joy and a credit. My favorite of your Australian project is the Vagabond Grenache, another Grenache that you do, and it's sorry, there's a fly here. I didn't think it was summer yet, so sorry. That's why I'm clutching. But I love it. So look, all of them, I've put all those wines. They're on all the Fergal's wines that we have in stock, Thistledown wines, and the wines of this evening are on the homepage of WineOnline on a 20% off sale at the moment. And that is not ever about just selling. Well, it's not about selling wine here. It's about actually it's lovely if you pick up a nugget of the odd wine or two. And I love seeing the likes of the Great Escape come up in a conversation like this, because it's an absolute gem. And we often have to tell people about those gems of wines that we have small amounts of, either by email or by phone. It's really nice to have a chat and hear you say, or you as customers saying that you've had these wines and you've had that Great Escape Chardonnay and had such a good experience with it. So they're on the homepage. We will get Fergal's Terres Fideles project in from France, and the wines there in soon. What I should say is, in case any of you do or did really enjoy El Primero Rioja this evening, we don't have stock right now. It is on the way from Scotland. If you do buy it or choose that you want some of it, it's available. It's online, but it is coming in, so it might just take an extra couple of days for us to get that to you. So go ahead, shoot away on it. It was certainly one of the wines of the night. I think I'd say that anyway, Fergal, even if you had already logged off.
Very kind, Will. Thank you.
So yeah, I don't know about anyone else. Anyone had any favorites that they'd like to jump back in or ask Fergal anything to himself? Please do dive in and ask a question or two. Michael, what favorites of the night?
I was blown away by the white wines. I love the Conde Valdemar because I'm a big Burgundy fan, and I can't really afford Burgundy that I really enjoy. That to me would just be right down my street, and my wife would be more than happy if I brought something home. She's fed up with me bringing red wine home. So yeah, fantastic. I have to say it's the white oak Spanish.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, next time, Fergal, would you commit to coming and doing a French tasting with us with Terres Fideles?
Be delighted. Of course, yeah.
I was having a chat with Fergal briefly yesterday, and I said, look, I know the last tasting we did all of your Thistledown wines, we did everything of all of your wines from Australia, and tonight it's only one of yours, and we've lots of other wines, so we'd love you to be part of the conversation. And he said to me, I wouldn't even care, Will, to be honest, if there wasn't even any of my wines on. It's just lovely to come on and have a chat and talk wine with you. So that's kind of the measure of you, Fergal. It's the measure of that you would do this anyway, but it's really giving of you, because it's, as I've said to people before, you're just this fountain. You wear your knowledge really lightly, and you've lots of it, and you've I suppose you've experienced from all corners of the world making the stuff and selling the stuff. So it's lovely to listen to you. I've really enjoyed it, and thanks for being here tonight. It's really enhanced.
Thanks for having us and sharing the wine. It was lovely, and a nice chance to taste some of the other things too. So, and I agree. I would have to say, white wine in Rioja is a revolution at the moment. There's just so much cool stuff going on, and you know, you'll be seeing over the next few years. And yeah, that Valdemar wine is really lovely.
Yeah,
well, there is a takeaway then, isn't it, from the night, that because we've definitely seen way more white wine bottles of Rioja. People are getting into it more, and it's good to see. So it's that's a good takeaway, isn't it? That
I think so.
We will bring you more white Rioja as well, because for relative to the amount of red Riojas we've listed, we've only got maybe 6 or 7 white Riojas on the books. So we'll bring you more of them. Absolutely. So watch this space. We'll email the recording of this next week. Maybe I'll try and pull some of those together. We'll try and pull some other white Riojas as well together and try and inspire you with a white Rioja case. Let's maybe do that.
Okay.
Let's do a mixed bag of white Riojas and see where we go from there. But I know we need to let you get on. We're a bit well over. We've really enjoyed it. Thanks again, particularly to all of you, because as we've said many times before, this doesn't happen unless you want it to, and unless you guys are all interested in coming. And the heartwarming thing for us tonight was that that many of you told us stories of having multiple people there, and either making your paella box go extend to 4 and 6 and 8 people, and some of you got extra boxes. But it's lovely to see that that we all still want this in some form, but actually that people are coming back into our homes, and that we're all getting together again, and that we're doing this, whether we're out in restaurants or pubs just yet, or that as well, that this might have legs, but it brings us all closer to like people like Fergal as well directly, and that we can all have a conversation together. So that's what I like about it, and that's what seems.
It just means, Fergal, we're going to be over to you soon enough, I'm sure, not only to Scotland but to Spain. Sylvia, the same thing. We'll be knocking on your door. We're able to travel soon enough where things are becoming a lot lighter.
We're reigniting the Rioja trip from a couple of years ago. So watch this space in the next 5-6 weeks. We'll send out a bit of information to all of you guys specifically first, let you know about it. But we'll visit Valdemar, we'll visit Navajas, we'll visit Ramon Bilbao. We'll make our way across to Eastern Rioja over to you, Fergal. If you're there, you'll be, you know, wherever God name you might be.
Sure we are.
But we'll plan it out, and we'll be in touch with you all. So look, thanks everyone for coming tonight, for embracing this, for embracing the Spanish food, embracing the Spanish wine, and joining us for another great evening of this. We'll be in touch with something else soon. We have just put up actually the other day Louis Latour. We have Christophe Diola in an absolute rare appearance of an online wine tasting on the 4th of March. He's joining us for a tasting of some of the top wines from Louis Latour's Burgundy stable. So yeah, that's a nice tasting. That's on the homepage of our site. That one's limited. We've only got enough cases of wine for, I think, 50 people. But anyway, that's one to come. That's down the line. It's many weeks away from now. So for now,
Roman, thanks for turning up and feeding us. Basically, Sylvia, you're awesome. Thanks very much. Come back to Waterford sometime. And Fergal, as always, you've been a pleasure and a great guy. So, and thanks to everybody for turning up and just supporting Wine Online.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Yeah, thanks for coming along. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and all of the wines in a very safe manner over the next 2 or 3 days. Obviously not all in one evening.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, Mary, lovely to see you. Thanks guys, and thanks
less people.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Very much.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
See you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a million.
Hi, Jean. How are you?
Thanks, it was lovely. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. Good night.
Bye bye everybody.
Big meeting.
Adios.
They've all had a lot of wine.
Brilliant. I didn't realise until we did that. Like, you know what's great about when we were kind of when we were listening to presenters.
That's a picture of Mark Morris.
When we were listening to the presenters,
when we were sailing away from
I was engrossed by it.
You're still live.
Well, we're on mute, so
We're not
grand.
actually. Hold on a sec.
I know, shut let her off. Let her off.
No, anyway. I know. I thoroughly enjoyed the night. Absolutely fantastic. We'll be booking it myself. Bye-bye.
enough.
Bye. Jesus. No, you see, I know when to have manners and when not to.
Did I?